Welcome back. The National Student Financial Aid Scheme has implemented strict minimum norms and standards for private accommodations, along with definitive terms and conditions for private accommodation providers. The initiative is essential to regulate private student housing, as many student residences suffer, of course, as you know, from significant quality and maintenance issues due to neglect by landlords. Let's get a better understanding of this intervention. Bring in Gift Moleko, who's the spokesperson for the National Association of Student Accommodation Transformation, and joins us now via our video link. Gift, it's lovely to have you on the SABC. Thanks for your time. Let's just begin with much needed context. Can you outline for us what some of the main challenges students have been facing in private accommodation settings?
Thank you very much, and thank you to all the viewers at home. Yes, as you presented, my name is Bafana Gift Moleko from the NASAT, newly formed association that is aimed at ensuring that we regulate student accommodation, ensure that the quality that the accommodation provider needs to provide to students are ensured and are done so in measures that are within the confines and the regulatory bodies that NSFAS provides us as accommodation providers. So there are some minimum norms and standards that NSFAS has outlined for us and that most of the landlords have been adhering to. Although we do have a few challenges, the small scale landlords that are there existing and are just new into this particular whole stream, and a lot of challenges from municipalities in getting some of the things running, because you should know that some of these certificates, like your rezoning and all of them, they need the municipality's intervention, and with the reluctance of municipality and all that can make or lead up to some of the student accommodation not meeting the minimum norms and standard. But that is a matter that we as NASAT, some of the matters that we as NASAT are going to be able to focus on and ensure that we deal with them in the upcoming days when we will be going around and ensuring that we spread the message of NASAT, the newly formulated association that is becoming as a solution to the problem that these small-scale service providers have been facing.
I know you had a meeting with NSFAS recently. Are you able to tell us what was discussed there?
Yes, we did have a meeting with the recently newly appointed CEO, acting CEO, Mr. Karim Nasim. And a lot has been engaged on in terms of the 2024 payment. As you would know that a lot of landlords, especially small-scale landlords, and particularly the black landlords, they have been victimized by non-payment. You know, this non-payment that has been occurring via NSFAS, and landlords were not able to keep up with the services, the student accommodation is dilapidating because there was a bit of reluctance in terms of non-payment. But although we understand from an association point of view that this non-payment was because of this project last year was entirely a pilot project, and there was an acting, the entire board of NSFAS at the time was not established, and we had an administrator who had administered in the process. We did understand at some point some of the points that he was raising around the 2024 payment. That's to say that the pilot project was under administration, it was administered by the former administrator, and some of the things were hiccups because there was a pilot project. Although we stretched a number of issues, like to say that landlords can't keep up with the electricity, the water, the lights, the Wi-Fi's, and making sure that they pay municipalities on time when the landlords are not paying. So key amongst other issues was the 2024 payment. Another issue is this certificate, the reluctance that we are getting from municipalities. You would know, Ayanda, that all these student accommodation issues were previously meant for a particular, I would not say race, but a particular population that had majority of money on their side that could maintain. But to small scale who recently came into business into this pilot, it was difficult to keep up with the business. And on top of that, the reluctance from the municipality in giving us the necessary certificate, like your rezoning, your COC, and all those certificates had made business really difficult for small scale accommodation providers. And that has been one of the biggest challenges that we have faced. So we also engaged the SALGA to try and have an understanding together with SALGA as to how we can resolve some of these matters we are experiencing in our communities with these small-scale student accommodation providers that were previously disadvantaged, because you would know that NSFAS, when it came at an inception, it was TEFSAS, and the sole intention was to imbalance all the wrongs of the past and ensure that the other party that was outside the economy comes into the economy. So all these things came as a new form of business to the majority small-scale providers of student accommodation, and we had to make sure that we regulate our student accommodation, we get the certificate, although there was a challenge. But one of the responses by the acting CEO of NSFAS was that they will look into ensuring that they go down to municipalities and engage them in terms of making other processes easy to allow us as student accommodation providers to receive all the necessary documentation on time and the prioritization throughout all the certificates that we need to. So you know, Mr. Karim has recently just came in, and we acknowledge and we are grateful for the fact that he has managed to meet with ourselves as NASAT and is making sure that on his table, issues that are affecting landlords are always dealt with, and he meets with the parties that are implicated in this or that are affected by this particular conundrum.
I know in the past, I think the arrangement was that NSFAS would pay students and students would have the responsibility of essentially taking care of their accommodation. That has since been changed with NSFAS wanting to essentially get rid of the middleman. From where you're sitting, and I know you've mentioned that this was a pilot project last year and perhaps that's where the hiccups came from, but does the strategy for you work where NSFAS directly interacts with these accommodation providers as opposed to this money going to students who then make sure that they're able to get their accommodation sorted out?
You know, previously when these problems or when students were receiving their allowances directly into their account of student accommodation, there were situations where students would move into this private accommodation. When the money comes in, they're supposed to pay, they would go away. So this solution and even the solution partners that are currently introduced by NSFAS to ensure that the system runs smoothly came as both advantages and disadvantage, because now like myself, a small-scale accommodation provider, I'm able to do business and all that because of NSFAS is taking over the process, and we are able to then make it to the market. But at the time when students were receiving the allowances into their accounts, we were not even able to get our accommodation to standard because of one of the issues that I just raised now, where students will receive 70,000 or your 30,000 in their accounts, and then they would think, oh, imagine the 30,000 and have to pay landlord, and they would decide not to pay the landlord and take the entire amount and just go with it. So that was a great challenge. So this initiative by NSFAS taking this entire process and ensuring that they look into it themselves, it is an advantage for us as business providers, and we're able to look into the rate issues and all these particular matters. So our direct interaction with NSFAS has become a very handy process, and we'd like to encourage the NSFAS and the CEO to continue with the processes being in the hands of NSFAS and not taking it back, whether to institutions or otherwise, to ensure that this process is able to be managed by NSFAS, because NSFAS, anything that happens in terms of the corruption that happened, they are the ones that are accountable with this public money that is going to wrong places at some point. So we encourage the NSFAS to continue and ensure that they sharpen their system in ensuring that this particular student accommodation site of NSFAS that is newly developed, it functions properly, and they don't give another process to the institution, because recently we've seen the SIU going institutions collecting money on behalf of NSFAS for people overpayments and all that. So we are adamant that at some point NSFAS will get this process right, and we are confident with the current leadership and what they might do, can get things right. Okay,
that's good to hear. Very briefly, if you can, Gift, what are these norms and standards? So if I am canvassing potential accommodation as a student, what do I need to look out for in order to ascertain whether or not that particular property adheres to these regulations?
I'm just going to read a few of them. Wash basin, 1 per 4 students. Shower cabins, 1 per 7 students. Your stove, it's 2 stoves per 6 students. Your shower, it's 1 shower to 4 students. Those, and then we need to have a study area. You need to have a commercial room where you just maybe students they sit and watch your soccer and all that. So you need those particular things. Those are the main things. And one other one that is most important is the laundry. Laundry is one of also the most important aspects that a student needs to look into a student accommodation that is accredited by NSFAS.
All right, fair enough. Gift Moleko, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us, and hopefully we're able to sort this issue out given how long-standing it's been. Gift Moleko is with the National Association of Student Accommodation Transformation, a relatively new organization, hoping to at least play an intermediary role between students and getting them accommodation off campus.